Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Horse Races Now podcast. We're back, and we've got Kenny in studio. Kenny, you got to feel like you just got off a plane, right?
I got a lot of frequent flyer miles.
I guarantee
yes,
it.
I have been all over the planet. Glad to be home. It's been really nice being home with my wife, my daughter,
Yeah.
my dog.
Yeah, Sonny. We've got Sonny in studio. We might be able to cut to him really quick. Yeah, see? Sonny's just sitting there being a good boy.
Chilling. That's a first.
Yeah, last time he was into everything in the office.
All over the place.
Well, yeah, man. So let's start with Dubai, Kenny. I mean, how was the experience? Obviously, we didn't get the result we wanted out of the race, but it had to have been an amazing experience.
Well, world-class experience. They really do a great job over there. That race it attracts worldwide participants. The venue is amazing.
It blew my mind how big it was.
Yeah.
So I watched the race, and it was just insane, the grandstands.
Yeah. I mean, it is a first-class show. It's Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Cup, and the Dubai World Cup. It's a real honor to be a participant in both.
Mm-hmm.
I think Saudi Cup's really getting it too, you know, but Dubai Cup or the Dubai World Cup started a little sooner than the Saudi Cup, but the Saudi Cup's they're racing real fast, but it was impressive. We had for people that follow me on X,
right?
You can see some of the things that I shared, and of course a lot of things on the show last time we podcast were on there as well, and it wasn't the result that I wanted.
Right.
I think that was a tough one. You know, they didn't invite Rattle and Roll. We were the last horse invited to the race, and which was, and honestly was it was disappointing because we were over there and we thought we ran a respectable race in the Saudi Cup, but they didn't offer the invitation. And when they finally did, we didn't have time to get a rider. You have to book your jockeys pretty well in advance, and we were on a narrow window there. Brian Hernandez and his agent had decided to ride at Keeneland that weekend, and they won the Bluegrass this past weekend, so that was the right move for them. But I really needed him on this horse, and logistically and scheduling wise, it didn't work out. The jockey William Buick, fantastic young man, very impressed by William.
Right.
But I really think he didn't know the horse that well.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and I think he really probably tried to do a little bit more with him early than the horse wanted. And,
Got it.
And he didn't make much of a finish. I mean, he didn't get beat that far.
No, it really didn't.
I think he got beaten nine lengths.
He was right there. There's a big bunch of them that are right there.
Yeah.
Hit Show looked impressive, and you may have actually called that. We saw Hit Show on the previous podcast the week before, and you went right past and said, "Hey, this is a great horse."
Yeah, well, we had beaten Hit Show 4 3/4 lengths last time we ran against him. So, look. Another Brad Cox winner. I mean, and that was frustrating that we had beaten that horse 2 or 3 races back. But it's horse racing. It's the way it goes.
That's absolutely the way it goes. Kenny, the Japanese horses seem to have a ton of success in those Saudi races. So what's the reason for that? Is there anything that you can point to that's why they're so successful?
Well, their depth of quality has gotten better and better over the last decade or two.
Now, Japanese horses never run like the Kentucky Derby, for example, right?
Yeah, no, Forever Young ran third.
Yeah, but it's never won.
No, it's not. They've not won, but they're sneaking in there.
But they were dominating over at least the day of the Dubai World Cup, and then obviously the Saudi. Well, I mean, they dominated there. It seems like.
Well, their program over there is, like I said, it's gotten stronger and stronger, and I think that a horse coming from Japan is going to eventually probably win it, but they've tried something similar. The Sheikh Mohammed in Dubai has really tried hard to win the Derby too.
Oh yeah,
and hadn't been able to do it. But that's what's so interesting about winning it. It is hard.
Oh yeah, horse racing's not easy. So Kenny, let's obviously we've detailed Dubai quite a bit, but coming back there was a bit of an issue for you.
Well, for people that have never been that far on an airplane, it was 15 hours going over. It was 14 hours coming back.
Insane.
And that didn't include the connection. Usually it's around, I think I want to say I got over there in 16 or 17 hours and then came back in about 24. The rough part of the trip is that we had what I would call a bit of a nightmare communication issue on the plane. You make entries, and I typically handle my own entries, which is something I like doing. I made half of my entries before I got on the plane with the idea that I'd make the rest of them on the Wi-Fi on the plane, and the Wi-Fi was down. And I was begging them, reboot it, please, 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 please. A horse didn't get entered on the way back. Owner was client, very, very good client, somebody I really like. The horse didn't get entered. And very humbling experience getting off that airplane, knowing that didn't happen, in hindsight. But, I just really expected to have every international flight I've ever had. There wasn't a problem with it. But anyway, to let you all know out there, it's not a perfect world. I'm not perfect. There are things that happen. Worst case could have been that, a horse is injured or, something like that. But these things are part of the game. But I have not had that happen in my career. And like I said, some other horses got injured that day, but not that particular one. But he's going to be back in a week, and we're kind of trying to sort that out. But like I said,
pretty upset owner.
He was very upset, and I told him, I said, I don't know what to say. I said, you have every reason to be upset. I'm upset. I don't know how it happened. I don't know why it happened. Ultimately, I'm responsible, but I assumed there would be Wi-Fi on the plane, and there wasn't.
Yeah, to your point, there's always been, and especially on an international trip, like how do you exist without it? But
it was a lesson learned on my side. I'm going to take the bullet on some training fees and like that, and like I said, I didn't have an argument other than it was very apologetic, and even now, just I'm like, how did that happen? How did that happen?
Right.
I don't know how that happened, but it happened. Could it have been avoided? Perhaps. I mean, in hindsight, but once a bell's rung, you can't unring it.
Yeah.
But people that out there that don't understand the sport, you have this window of time to make entries, and usually it's from about 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. And if you don't get it done by that period of time, then you can't enter.
Right.
And you could have entered and scratched, which actually I was hoping that someone worked for me would be smart enough to do that, but they didn't. And then, then once those entries close, they're closed. And you've got to make decisions on all that. And usually I make those decisions between 9, 10 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
Well before entries are closed. And then once those entries are drawn, then you go from there. But just that was probably the worst thing that happened on the return. Otherwise, horses came back healthy, and we're excited for Oaklawn this weekend with Torpedo Anna.
So let's talk about that. So is this a race that you've won in the past?
No, I haven't.
It's the Apple Blossom, correct?
Apple Blossom. I've been so close. I got beat an inch by a Zeri. Take Charge Lady was my filly. I beat 1 inch in it years back, and I believe that was 2003 or 4. But a great race, and we're 2 to 5 favorites. So it's her race for the taking. But we're not going to take anything for granted.
So because we're talking about Torpedo Anna, I want to reference one of the comments we got on our YouTube page here. Big fan of Torpedo Anna. Bet her first time out. Not a big fan of Mystic Dan because I had a future bet on Torpedo Anna and the Preakness to 28 to 1 to win when Mystic Dan won the Derby. McPeek probably doesn't want to admit it, but does he think Torpedo Anna could have won the Preakness?
Yes. Yeah, but that's that would have been about a couple of weeks back for her. But yeah, she definitely could have.
Interesting. See, I didn't know that you take it there. I thought maybe you said, "Oh, hey, the competition." You think she could have won it?
Yeah, I do.
That's awesome.
But at that stage in her career, that was only her second start of the season, and we were on some sort of what I would call a conservative path, and so coming back in the Acorn made sense. Coming back in the coaching club made sense, and then we took on the Colts and the Travers, which everybody remembers as a great race. I get this question all the time: when are you going to run her against the boys again?
Oh, I bet.
I think we're going to take a conservative path for the first half of the year, and then we'll let the second half play itself out. There's no guarantee that she wins this week, and there's no guarantee that more than likely I'm going to come back on the third Derby weekend in the La Troyenne, which is back in 3 weeks. So she'll be a little vulnerable coming back in 3 weeks, but she's tough. She'll handle it.
Wow, that's exciting. All right, so we've had a lot of big races here recently. The Florida Derby just ran. We just had the Bluegrass at Keeneland. Let's talk about some of the horses you've had running here recently, Kenny. You've had some successes, some not so much. So let's hit on some of those horses.
Sure.
So let's talk about Render Judgment.
This is a nice horse, and I think I've probably always considered him maybe just a notch below. I think we've learned that he runs well, but maybe just can't get up with the top 3-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
But like Mount Everest, it's a steep hill to climb,
Mm-hmm.
and when you get the higher you go, the thinner the air.
Right.
He just is just a few lengths, maybe 4 or 5 lengths behind those. But it's reminiscent of Rattle and Roll. Rattle and Roll was the same. He wasn't a top 3-year-old. He was a second level 3-year-old. And then he went off and he ran through St. Louis Derby, American Derby at Churchill.
Mm-hmm.
He had a really, really good Oklahoma Derby.
Mm-hmm.
So those are really good races. And I see Render Judgment being a horse that kind of goes second tier. Ohio Derby, another great race. So that's kind of the path from here on him. There's a chance he'll run Derby Day in a other than first level allowance race to get him back into winning ways, hopefully. But there's no shame in that. I think that when you get up in that highest level, the expectations or the effort to get there, if it were easy, every year, it's not going to be.
Right.
But I'm proud of that horse. I like that colt.
So Hypnus just ran.
Well, Hypnus is in next weekend. He's in.
It's April 12th. That's right.
Yeah, he runs in the Lexington. So this is a horse that actually his last 2 starts have been slightly disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had a reasonable excuse in the Rebel at Oaklawn.
Mm-hmm.
He was stopped a couple of times, but he really didn't have an excuse in the Louisiana Derby. There was a race that we expected him to move forward in. He is a bit of a playboy. He wants to come in the paddock and get a little bit frisky.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Some would say, well, you probably ought to geld him. Well, he's very well bred, so we're not going to do that yet.
Yeah.
But he really needs to focus a little bit better, and we're going to add a blinker to him to get him to do that. But he's a little studdish, and he was very bad in the paddock at Louisiana. And when a horse gets like that, and they're not focused on racing, then that's definitely going to compromise their chances. And he did not fire a shot in the Louisiana Derby, and we really expected him to. And so we're going to try a little this and a little that and see if we can figure him out. If he wins the Lexington, perhaps we'll take him to the Preakness. And he's 6-1 morning line in the Lexington, so he's got a fair chance there.
Another horse that we talked quite a bit about on this show is Take Charge, My Lady. Looks like she ran on April 4th at Keeneland. How did that go?
Well, this is a filly that we're really pleased with. She won the Martha Washington down there at Oaklawn, but she threw a complete stinker in the Honeybee.
Yep.
And a race that she was one of the favorites in, and we were, kind of taken aback on that one, that why she didn't run well. Well, I shifted her around. We actually had found out that she had a significant amount of caps in her mouth.
Oh, okay.
So you probably don't know what caps.
I don't.
So her teeth needed to be done.
Okay.
She wasn't eating well coming out of the race. For that matter, I wasn't thrilled going into the Honeybee on the way she was eating. Turns out that her teeth were overdue, and what happens is that horses shed their teeth.
Yep.
Because we've domesticated the horse, you have to float their teeth and pull out. These teeth grow. The molars do.
Interesting.
And you have to either float them out or grind them down, or you have to pop them out. And especially young horses, going from 2 to 3 to 4, you've heard of the old saying, "long in the tooth."
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you've got a horse out in the wild, they'll pick. They'll either when they're consuming hay or grass, they'll eat a little sand that grinds their teeth down out in the wild. But when they're domesticated and they're in the stall every day,
they don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, so you have to have a professional come in there, and we do them every 90 days.
Okay.
And I'm religious about it. I do my horse's teeth every 90 days, not a minute longer. And in the case of Take Charge, Milady, she she needed that done. And we fixed those teeth.
Got it.
Got her eating good.
Got it.
Once we got her eating good, she ran great in Ashland.
Okay.
I mean, she was second here the other day. And, and that race does punch her ticket to the Kentucky Oaks. So we get to defend our title on that one.
All right. I was hoping that would be the case.
Yeah. No, so that's good.
Awesome.
She is so reminiscent of her grandmother. I trained Take Charge Lady, who is her grandmother, through her father. And so Take Charge Indy is Take Charge Milady's sire. I'm going to confuse everybody.
Yeah.
Take Charge Milady's father is Take Charge Indy, and Take Charge Indy's mother is Take Charge Lady.
Ah, okay.
And I trained Take Charge Lady to 6 or 7 graded stakes wins.
Yeah.
She was the first.
Oh, yeah. I remember that horse.
She was the first great filly that I trained. She was heavily favored the Oaks and ended up second.
Yeah.
But yeah, this filly is, and that's how the bloodlines work. They go from mother to son, son to daughter.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So this is a lovely filly, and she was a fast closing second. And if she had gone a little further, which she gets a mile and an eighth in the Oaks, she probably wins. So.
How do you like Take Charge My Lady's chances in the upcoming Oaks?
Well, I think they're big. She's a filly that can rate off the pace. She seems to be improving. She's going to need a little pace in front of her, but I think she'll get it. And yeah, I think she's in a real chance. I think they're going to look at her and probably make her less than 10-1 if I had to guess. There is one really heavily favored filly of Brad Cox's Good Cheer. She's intimidating. I mean, she looks so good on the racetrack in Louisiana this winter that I don't know if that one's beatable if she runs her best race. But you know, look, prize money for even second and third's not chopped liver.
No, absolutely. Any other horses that have run here recently you want to hit on?
Well, we've got Gal's Delight, who's on the fringes of the Kentucky Oaks, but I'm probably going to opt towards running her in either the 8 Bells or the Edgewood. That's a decision that I've yet to make. I'm going to nominate her to both. Being that you already have a horse that's eligible for the Oaks, does that play into that at all? No, not really. I just don't think that Gal's Delight wants to quite go that far. Got it. I think she's probably more of a quick sprinter type. She's gone to the front and she's run well, but she's been running against Good Cheer, so that filly we know's top notch. Sure. But yeah, I think taking a step back is probably a good idea. And she's still eligible for a first level allowance race too, so I could run her in a first level allowance race on Oaks Day and probably expect her to win. Okay. Another horse that we ought to touch on is Maximum Promise. Yep. Real pleased with his effort in the Jeff Ruby at Turfway. He was a solid third, awesome. Bit wide both turns. The Hall of Fame or the top jockey Frankie Dettori rode him, and right now we're scheduled to come back in the American Turf at Churchill. And if he runs him well in that, then we're going to take him to the English Derby. Ooh, nice. Yeah. And that's the one you've been saying. Yeah. That's a horse that I think that's ideal for that race. And I think that if everything comes together in this next start, that horse could punch his ticket and we could be going to London with him. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you like to get these airline miles, that's for sure. That one would be super fun there. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the one that you said, hey, that's the one I really want to go get. Speaking to somebody that I have a lot of respect for, Steve Haskins. That's right. Steve Haskins called me. It's been a couple of weeks ago. I guess it was the weekend of Louisiana Derby, and he asked what I was going to do with Maximum Promise, and I told him, I was thinking about English Derby. He said, "You're kidding," and I said, "No, why would I be?" He said, "I studied his pedigree." He said, "That horse has 5 English Derby winners in his female family," and I said, "Well, doesn't surprise me because that's what he looks like. He looks like a European turf horse." And his second dam sire is Galileo, which is all. I mean, he's the king of the English Derby, that sire and the sire line, and then beyond that, he's got a very European pedigree down in the second, third, and fourth dams. So, look, that'd be a unique trip. You would have, like I said, the client Greg Back and Ala Rose. I said you possibly could meet King Charles. Mm-hmm. I've myself have met the Queen over there 3 times. Those are amazing trips, and actually he was only a $60,000 yearling, Maximum Promise. Yeah, and Take Charge Milady was only $60,000 yearling, so I'm doing my job.
That's your specialty.
Yeah,
that's your specialty.
That's all you can do.
There's another one that just ran. I could be wrong. It Will Be Fun.
I scratched her.
All right. Somebody asked about that one on one of ours. And then let's see. There was one others that we had a listener ask about. Eyes on Italy.
She is in this weekend. Mile and 16th grass race.
Okay.
I think this filly's going to have to step up. She's shown she's useful. I do think she's strictly a turf horse.
Got it.
But we will, let her have a try at maiden special weight. She was a modest priced 2-year-old in training, and I think she's going to need to find 5, 6, 7, 8 lengths to win.
We've made a hit on this in the past, but we've gotten this question a couple times, so I wanted to ask you again. What does Kenny mean when he calls a horse like Mystic Dan handy? It's a handy horse.
Well, when you're describing a horse, whether they have speed, tactical speed, or even come from behind horses tend to be grinders, plotters. Horses that are handy are horses that can stalk pace and then pop, and they're probably more like, if you use the analogy of a basketball team, more like a point guard, or a quick small forward.
Got it.
Than a center,
right?
So I don't know if that's a good analogy.
I think it is. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, or as a halfback or a lineman, halfback's much more handy.
Absolutely.
Than a run.
Yeah, like a slot receiver would be more than a middle linebacker.
Yeah, that's the best way I could explain it.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense. This one comes from somebody that's probably pretty knowledgeable about horse racing, but what I find ironic is people might see Torpedo Anna's conformation flaw as a breeding issue. What they don't see is they've never met a vet strength, her versatility, and willingness as a positive, this is written strange, that could be passed along with her fast speed that she got from Fast Anna. She would have beat Fierceness if the other jocks have not boxed her in. Do you agree from my assessment? So basically, I guess what they're saying here, Kenny, is I don't know if there's any flaws with Torpedo Anna, but as a confirmation flaw from her breeding issue, what they don't see is that how strong and versatility and her willingness to get out there and run is.
Well, I understand what he's saying.
Okay.
Or she, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's from Janet. Yeah, it's Janet Cameron.
Yeah. All right, Janet, here we go. So this filly, she's out of an Uncle Mo mare. Uncle Mo's are conformationally not beautiful horses, but the speed factor that comes from the sire line, Indian Charlie, and the way she's made, if you look at her conformationally and you watched her walk up and back, she toes in left front, and she curls, she has offset knee. And that was one of the reasons why she didn't bring a lot of money. And so when she moves through that, she actually cocks it a little bit, and it's not, she's not perfectly made. The rest of her is flawless.
Right.
I mean, her right front leg, perfect. Her right knee, straight, perfect. I love her shoulder, her hip, her neck. She's not the beautiful nose. She doesn't have a beautiful nose on her. She's a bit of a long-faced filly, but ultra intelligent. And then the Fast Anna side of it, which I actually do think Uncle Mo's probably more of an influence. But the Fast Anna side of it, I think, brings the Medaglia d'Oro on the top line.
Right.
He was. I see some Medaglia d'Oro in her. Fast Anna is out of a mare named Dreaming of Anna.
Okay.
Who was a very, very good filly, and trained by Wayne Catalano.
Right.
And I believe the influence from Dreaming of Anna is also there. And so when you're looking at a horse physically and how the pedigree's crossing and where it's all coming from, I take into consideration all of those. So when I looked at her, I said, okay, Medaglia d'Oro, Dreaming of Anna, Fast Anna I didn't know well because he didn't race many times, but he was fast and he was a sprinter. But Medaglia d'Oro himself went I beat him in the Belmont at 1.5 miles. He won the Travers at 1.25 miles. I was second in that race. Dreaming of Anna, I was second to her in the Breeders' Cup. So I know these horses in my mind. And then Uncle Mo, I was around when he was racing. And he was kind of a straightened up, a bit of a straighter in the hip, straighter in the shoulder, but she's got more angles than that. She's got deeper cut angles in her shoulder, deeper cut angles in her pastern. And that's really what I like better anyway. But she's got the speed influence of Uncle Mo. And he is and will be a really great broodmare sire over the course of time. Marketability for her is a horse that goes to a sale. The knocks on her is going to be the sire, Fast Anna, because he really's only produced her. And the knock would be how she's made conformationally. And that's just the one leg. And her mother had that. Her mother has the same cocked left leg.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it does pass along. But, all this is art that I look at.
Sure.
That people, I hope, out there learn to look at. And my suggestion is that if you're looking at horses, immediately ask yourself, when you're looking at a thoroughbred, ask yourself, who's this horse by? Who's she out of or he out of?
Right.
Was the sire the same coloring as the horse you're looking at? Was the broodmare or the broodmare sire the same coloring? Mm-hmm. That's how I learned to do this. I visualize and I take pictures with my mind what a horse looks like, but I also know so many of the pedigrees that I can put 2 and 2 together. Mm-hmm. And I learned that as a boy. My grandfather taught me sire, broodmare sire. That's how you really learn pedigree. But if you look at a horse, immediately ask, who's she by? Who's she out of? Who's he by? Who's he out of? And then you start developing a pattern of how horses should be how they should look or possibly be made, and where it comes from when you see the horse and then the page.
Yeah, not everybody can do that, Kenny. I think you have a special mind there, but I understand what you're saying. But yeah, that's
well. Let me throw it back.
Pretty special.
When I was a freshman in college, I flunked out my first semester.
Okay.
I had a 0.6 GPA.
Okay.
I got this lovely letter from the university. It says, Mr. McPeek, if you don't have a 2.0 or better at the end of the second semester, okay. So I dug in. Second semester, I changed libraries.
Okay.
I went in the beginning at UK. I went to the King Library. For those out there that know anything about the University of Kentucky, it was too social.
Yeah.
I said, okay, I'm going to go someplace quiet. I found the Ag Library, and this story's leading to the pedigree story.
Right.
I found the Ag Library, and the Ag Library at the University of Kentucky in the basement, or at least years back.
Yeah.
Every blood horse and thoroughbred record ever printed in hardback. Mm-hmm. And so I would go study my courses, and then when I got bored, I would go over and grab the blood horse from 1903. Mm-hmm. And I read every issue before I graduated.
That's crazy.
I mean, it was like drugs to me.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I loved it. I was like, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got in my mind, I can remember seeing advertisements for stallions that I see in pedigrees.
Yeah.
I can remember Mahmoud being on the front page. Horses like Prince Aquilo. And of course, you got in the 70s, you had Secretariat.
Yeah.
In the 60s, you had a lot of Bold Ruler, Raja Baba. In the 50s, you had... there were Australian stallions that were successful in racing in the 50s. In the 40s, you had the Calumet era. Mm-hmm. In the 30s, you had more. I mean, so all that in my head is I can actually tell you. I can look at a horse and say, "Oh, where's that one come from? Oh, that's where the gray. It's a gray horse. So it must be some Mahmoud in there somewhere."
So it starts from your research on these blood horses. The magazine, the books.
I loved reading about it.
That's crazy.
It was.
That's awesome.
For me, it was fascinating.
All right. Speaking fascinating, we haven't talked about this, and I don't even know if you're allowed to talk about this. I'm not real sure. But I saw a preview of a Netflix series that comes out on April 22nd. It looks pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
So it's from the same producers that do the Formula One, they do the PGA Tour, which I love both of those. How prominent are you in this thing? It looks pretty. The trailer looks awesome.
Well, I think very prominent.
See, I mean, how have we not let the cat out of the bag on this one? Have they asked you not to, or
they actually just decided within the last week or 10 days when it was going to be released. And I don't think they've really pushed it yet. But it started out as they started following us about 6 months before the Derby, you know.
Okay.
Wow. Or before the Triple Crown chase. I was actually just a supporting cast. It was really going to be Brad Cox and Chad Brown.
Okay.
They were lead characters, I think.
So they were following them as well, right?
Yeah. And they threw me in because somebody had heard me speak at the trainers' dinner.
Got it.
A previous year. And they thought I'd be, I guess, a good third choice.
Okay.
And I think Shanley, who helped put it together, she said, "You stole the show."
Well, I would say so, especially winning the Derby and the Oaks has to. Looks like Hernandez is Brian's.
Oh yeah. No. Look, they followed us. The post race parties, everything. You know who got a lot of headline in the thing? Sonny.
Oh, okay, all right.
Sonny is going to be very famous on the other side of the Netflix series.
Kenny, this is going to change horse racing. Well, I really think I really think it might. I mean, because these TV shows have done wonders for these sports and brought a new generation and a new segment of an audience of fans to these sports.
Yeah.
If it does what it did for Formula One and golf, it's going to be huge.
Well, I mean, I hope you're right. I mean, we just were ourselves through the whole thing. We enjoyed all of it. I mean, I was wired up. It seemed like every big race they wanted to wire me up. Sometimes I said yes. Sometimes I said no. Sometimes.
Were you wired for the Derby and the Oaks?
I can't remember. I'm sure I was. I mean, it seems like I was wired all the time.
Yeah.
But we really didn't do anything that we didn't regularly do. I mean, they spent a lot of time around the stables. They came to dinner. They were at the post-race Derby party, which I might have made a fool of myself after that. We were having so much fun. Everybody was really, I had a lot of friends that we couldn't enjoy the Derby post-race because we were so tired. And really, we did all the interviews and the press and all that. And by that time, we were ready to go home, and it was late. But we put together a little party. Sherry, my wife, was great at putting all that together at our home, and we had a post-race party that was a blowout.
I bet.
Netflix was there.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So all that's going to be on it?
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I assume. I've not seen it.
So you haven't seen anything?
I just lived it.
Is there any compensation for that, or is it just simply?
No. I wouldn't have expected any compensation. I was just doing my job.
I get that, but man, that is going to be a massive TV show.
Well, they went into it and explained to me the, it's not NASCAR, the Formula One.
Formula One,
yeah, how they did Formula One, and I watched an episode of the Formula One to try to get a little feel for. Was it? I mean, I watched one episode to get an idea what it might be, and look, I hope so. I hope people are able to feel the highs that we felt. Mm-hmm. For people that don't know racing and don't know the result, it'd probably be more fun not knowing the result going into it.
Yeah.
And maybe people, will get that feeling. I mean, I know that for me personally and professionally, I'll probably never get that feeling again. For them to have recorded it all.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, pretty awesome. So
I mean, right. So listen, the golf one is called Full Swing, and it's incredible. Mm-hmm. And if it's anywhere near the Formula One and the golf one, it's going to be incredible for the sport. So the fact that you're prominent on it, I don't understand. I don't know if you realize how big of a deal it's going to be.
I still got a job to do every day.
I understand.
I mean, I've got so many balls in the air, I can't count them all. So
Sonny's going to be pretty famous after this, Kenny.
Probably.
I'm telling you. All right. So I've been wanting to ask you that. It looks so cool. April 22nd, that comes out on Netflix. So we encourage everyone to watch that. Last question here, Kenny. We'll get you out of here for today. We're going to go back to Janet Cameron because she has a lot of good ones here. Mm-hmm. This is Janet's show here today. She wants to know if you ever have any chiropractic care on any of your animals. She's seen where chiropractic care can be good for thoroughbreds, and she's got a thoroughbred named Trooper that she's seen had some really, really good results. Is that something you've done before?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very much a proponent of it. However, I think it takes the right horse and the right veterinarian, or the right chiropractor.
Okay.
The problem I found is that there are people that know what they're doing, and there are people that don't.
Yep.
And years back, there was a veterinarian named Earl Sutherland who did Chinese acupuncture, which Earl was brilliant. He doesn't practice in the thoroughbred industry anymore, and I haven't talked to him in years, but he was so talented. And in Dubai, Rattle and Roll had a regular chiropractor, a young lady named Jenna, and I'm actually trying to pronounce her name correctly, Viargis.
Okay.
She was really, really talented.
Gotcha.
I mean, I was amazed at she was able to pinpoint pressure points and open. I'm trying to figure out what the terminology is, but she was really talented and was very, very impressed by her. Locally, I can't say that I've been here in Kentucky. I haven't been around that many that are that good since Earl Sutherland. But there are those that are out there that I would love to be able to do more of it.
Sure.
But I don't want to hire somebody that's not really special at it.
Yep.
But Jenna was special. I mean, she was.
So you get the right chiropractor, it absolutely can do some good for a horse.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that they're able to pinpoint sore spots, places you need to pay a little more attention to. Now, that saying, she worked on the horse and he didn't run well. I mean, that's no knock on her so much, but I'm not one to go overboard on it.
Okay.
So to pull back a little bit from the question, I don't go crazy on something like this.
Okay.
I do believe that when horses jog off and they jog off clean, there's not a lot of work to do.
Got it.
If they gallop clean and they're switching leads clean, if they're not switching their leads correctly, front back, or if they're warming up like their back's bothering her, chiropractic's helpful.
Okay.
But we do put more emphasis on the groom, a body massage.
Yep.
Body massage before exercise, a body massage during the bath.
Right.
A hot bath, a body massage before horse gets done up. So they get a lot of that. But if you had particular horse and especially the higher level horses, if you had somebody that had a lot of talent, I'm all for chiropractic, Chinese acupuncture. I think that's great. It just, like I said, it kind of I'd rather do that than medication.
Interesting.
Actually, we don't train on medication at all.
Right.
I don't believe in it.
Sounds like good life, Kenny. These horses, man, they get treated well.
When they're at the racetrack, I mean, they do. They get doted over. At least most of the outfits that I'm around do it.
So, Kenny, what I'd like to try here in the near future, and we'll have to promote when we do it, I'd like to do a live episode where we go live, particularly maybe on YouTube and maybe live on Facebook at the same time, and take questions as we're on air. Is that something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'm glad to.
So if you're a listener, be looking out for an upcoming live episode. We'll let you know when we're going to do it. I'd like for Kenny to be in studio, so we'll have to make sure his schedule allows. But I think it'd be really cool for listeners to be able to come and we can interact back and forth. So we'll work on doing that here in the very near future.
We're going to probably try to, and Teague and I talked about this pre-show here. We're going to try to get it so that I can pop this out on my X or Twitter feed so you can get it right away. And then we could probably announce when we're going to do the live on that.
That'd be perfect.
And so we've got a significant number of followers, and anybody that doesn't follow me, that's really a great way to keep up with some of the things we've got going on. Not only will this podcast be available on that, but any other things I've got going. And of course, if you want to follow Sonny, he's over here resting. If you want to follow Sonny, you get an idea of what Sonny's up to on occasion too. But it's all good, and we're trying to keep this going.
Awesome, man. Anything else before we get out of here?
I don't think so. I've got a busy. Well, we're going to fly down and back for Torpedo Anna this weekend.
Right.
I'm gonna let my assistant saddle at Keeneland.
Is Brian riding?
The Lexington. Yeah, of course he's riding. We've got several horses in that day. And then I've got to go to Ocala. I'm going to go back to check the 2-year-olds in Ocala. I'll be down there Monday afternoon, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then back to Keeneland and hopefully home. Sherry's said, "Oh, you're going again?" I said, "Well, it's the JOB.
It's part of the gig."
Yeah. I need to check all the young horses in Florida.
Yep, makes sense. All right. Well, thank you for listening to Horse Races Now. We'll be back soon with another great episode.
All right. See you at the races.